Okay, are we going?
Yeah, you're live now.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. Paul, you're live in living color on the phone, so it's good. Okay, welcome everyone to our regular meeting. We acknowledge with gratitude and respect that this meeting, even though it's taking place in the air, we are all on the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And we acknowledge that with gratitude and respect, for sure. Okay, conflict of interest. Jamie McDonald declared a conflict of interest last night when she accidentally was named Friday to be Deputy Minister of Housing. So she has left us with best wishes. Very nice messages we received from her. So we are a group of 6, 5 of whom are with us now. I'm doing the counting on my fingers, and Robin frantically scrambling to find us. So she'll be here. Okay, so any conflicts of, and Bill too. Let me count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, I can't count. Oh, I was counting Alex as a committee member. Okay, yeah, Bill Campbell will be theoretically joining us with the phone in his ear. Are any conflicts of interest besides Jamie's? Anybody else been named deputy minister or anything? No? Okay. The agenda was sent around. Does anybody have anything to add to it before we approve it? We, in the discussion part, in the discussion part, it's already there, Provincial Affordable Housing Direction. Within that, we'll be talking about the mayor's request that we, or invitation to join the housing forum sponsored by the opposition party, Wednesday night, I think. So we'll talk about that a bit. Anything else? Anybody else want to put anything on the agenda? Valentine's cookies or anything? Got to remember, I'm an elementary school teacher in my heart. Okay. The Valentine's parties are going today. Major disappointment across the province yesterday with the parties being canceled from the snow. Okay, business or approval of minutes. We approved them by consensus last time. Does anybody have anything to add or subtract to those brilliant minutes? Hearing nothing. Good. So why don't we approve those by consensus? Is that okay? Everybody can nod their head do that or say yes or something. Okay. I'm the only one talking, so don't you dare leave your mute on. I need to hear people. Okay, discussions. Short-term rental bylaw progress. I thought we'd have all sorts of interesting things to talk about today on what happened last night at the council meeting, but it got postponed, right, Alex?
It did, so it's back on for this evening. So, we had a planning board meeting. All of the amendments that went through in January will be up for discussion tonight in regard to whether council wishes to give second reading to what I refer to as the land use piece, where these things will be located. I think you will likely see an amendment, a request for an amendment tonight that allows for a 1-year grace period. So the regulations that went through in January, in order to make that grace period come into effect, is that there'll be a little bit of debate tonight, I think, in regard to whether they want to allow the 1-year grace period. And the magic in the 1-year grace period is apparently, the board is in their recommendations to council, had recommended that the grace period should be implemented. So so they'll decide on that piece tonight. There's another piece which is it's called the sort of the longer term STR strategy. It's all the other components that need to be addressed and in place prior to March of 2023. So that's what's in play this evening. We'll get some clarity tonight as to what they want to do with it.
Questions for Alex?
Alex, what's the chance that it'll sail through with the amendments tonight?
I, I never know, whether that's on any application. I mean, I just have to wait. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen at council. You can defer, you can deny, you can approve. Again, I'm just like you folks. I'm just going to have to. They don't tell me in advance where they're going to go on it, but it's all teed up to be dealt with this evening.
Okay, and the recommendation from planning board is a 1-year grace.
Yeah, the 1 year, like that, the whole thing come into force and effect in March 28th of 2023, because by the time it gets to the minister of that signs off on all bylaw changes, it'll be the end of Marchish type thing. So they're predicting that it'll be, if there is going to be a 1 year grace period after the minister signs off. That will provide the direction to the STR operators in the community in regard to how the council intends to regulate the land use piece of it moving forward. And then, but all operators will be given 1 year to, they can either comply or some of them will comply, some of them can't comply, but then they'll be able to make some business decisions in regard to what they want to do in this next 1 year period.
More questions? Okay, I have 75. We'll start. The land use piece. You're saying where they're allowed?
Yeah, we have to amend the official plan and the zoning bylaw to which those are the tools in regard to where anything is allowed, what zones, things like that, terminology. That's the piece that's going through now. The other pieces are an STR in the future, which we have to have done before next year, is registration bylaw, summary conviction bylaw, fee schedule. There's a number of different pieces of this that need to be signed off by council, before we move into the regulation phase of dealing with this land use. But the land use will be defined this evening by council, where they will be acceptable in the community.
Okay, and we've kind of, and by we I mean me, I've kind of ignored the land where they're acceptable, in favor of focusing on what's acceptable. Can you kind of run through that quickly? The where.
Well, the issue is that the major pieces of it are that loud and single family dwellings or a duplex dwelling, you have to be the principal. That has to be your principal residence to utilize it. Yeah. So I mean, there's a few different dwelling unit types that it will be permissible in, but the key thing is that it's got to be your primary residence. And then the definitions and all of those things are in the package that they're dealing with this evening. And that was, what was so-called option 1 in that original study by the McGill professor.
So we're not talking like areas where certain things are allowed and areas where certain things are not. It's the same for the whole city.
Yeah, and we already had a provision for tourist homes in the city, and that always existed. So these are just, there's additional pieces where STRs didn't, sort of line up with the definitions and things in regard to having a tourist home. So the tourist home definitions have been updated and reflective of how the STR operators can work within that framework.
So this kind of subsumes tourist homes, right?
It's an updated piece of that whole tourist home, the old provisions of the bylaw, okay. And it brings them in, and it's a little bit more flexible. But again, I mean, it depends, I guess, upon your vantage point. There are those operators that don't like that it has to be your principal dwelling unit, because then that would allow you on multiple units, right? But the provision that's going to be debated this evening, what council does with it, I'm not sure, but it has to be in your it's got to be your primary residence that you are STRing to the public.
Yeah, okay. So tonight, if it moves to second reading, which means, okay, are you ready for the question, right?
Well, they will have to have some discussion tonight on the grace period. Add that to the regulations from last month. So there'll likely be some discussion there. Whether that gets approved, I don't know. I'll have to see. But if they do, then if they move to second reading, then it moves on to the minister to sign off on those amendments that came through in January.
Okay, so our strong recommendation has consistently been 1 year. Like everything we've sent, everything we've sent to council, everything we've said publicly. Yeah.
So that's what they'll be discussing tonight. I suspect it will come up that that this committee has made that recommendation as well. So again, but that's the only discussion tonight will be on the grace period, because that's an amendment to what they already discussed last month.
Okay, I would hope that our recommendation would come up in that discussion. Perhaps I will make a phone call today to.
But just keep in mind that the only discussion for council tonight is just the grace period.
Right, right. But we have made a recommendation.
Right.
I would hope that would come up.
Yep.
Okay, great. One more thing, Alex, as long as we're picking your brain down to the bone. You mentioned have to come up with an STR strategy. What exactly is that referring to?
Well, it's just the implementation of these land use regulations. Most land uses are not regulated like STRs, like an annual fees. Most land uses, once they're approved, they're just allowed to exist. But this is a unique land use type, so you need an annual inspection, or you have to pay an annual fee. You're going to need to meet some criteria. You need to get onto that registration bylaw, and we need the enforcement pieces that, in the event that people do not comply, that it's all nicely laid out as to how we will proceed to ensure they come into compliance, which are not typical. Okay. These are not typical on most amendments, land use amendments, because there's another layer to this, because it's a regulated industry as opposed to just dealing with the land use.
Okay. Thank you. What else on this STR? Robin, welcome. Do you have anything to ask or say?
Hi. No, I don't think so.
Okay. I hope your pen is just flying, Robin, because you're taking minutes. We just started before you joined.
It is. I might need to catch the beginning from someone else, but I just turned my camera off because I'm cooking at the same time.
Okay. Okay, so we're allowed to visualize, though, right?
Yeah. Picture me making soup and writing things down at the same time.
Okay, we appreciate multitaskers. Okay. Provincial Affordable Housing Direction. We talked about that in our last meeting, for sure, with the new Residential Tenancy Act that is going to go to the legislature this spring. They've had a number of drafts. The most recent draft we made a presentation about, and we had Connor Kelly in last week, who spoke about it, or last month, who spoke about it from PEI Fight for Affordable Housing from a tenant's perspective, and he spoke in those feedback events. And also 2 months ago, when Annabelle visited with us, we spoke about that too. Now, last evening, I assume you all got the same message I got from the mayor regarding the forum on housing. Okay, wanting to make sure we knew about it and that we would be attending. I have a new computer system that pops up. You should take a break every few minutes, so I'm enjoying that. not taking breaks. That's what's going on when you see me clicking around. I had registered for this forum, I don't know, a month ago when they announced it. And all of us are welcome to join. I think the mayor wanted to make sure there was somebody there from the city, and I kind of interpreted it that there was somebody there from the city that wasn't him, but I may have misinterpreted that. Other people? How did you interpret that? I can wait. Okay, digging it out and reading it. Okay, is anyone else planning to attend this online forum? It's when? Wednesday night?
Yeah, I'll be attending.
Yeah, I'll be attending unless there's really good things happening on the Olympics. I'll be attending anyway. I just will be paying my usual half attention. I don't really understand the format or anything. I just understand that it's roundtable discussion, perhaps really focusing on this new act. Is that what other people are clicking? Paul, are you thinking that's what it is? Let the record show he nodded. Yeah. So, do we want to make any sort of presentation or statement on behalf of the committee? I can do that. Would we want to do exactly the same thing we did in the government request for consultation, which was short and sweet, but pointing out areas where we thought of concern?
Yeah, so what would this statement be? What you know, I think it's an open-ended discussion anyway, so you can say anything you want, but
yeah,
what would
if I'm speaking on behalf.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I don't know, other than a personal opinion, how we add to the, you know.
Yeah.
Because the conversation could go a number of ways, I think, but it's hard to have an official position of the committee when it's a round table. But I'm just going to speak. You can speak. I may not.
Yeah, I may not either. What we did, we asked, we were allowed to ask one whole question at the affordable housing, or no, the Tenancy Act consultation evening. And our question was, why does the proposed act fail to include two things? One, a provincial rental registry, which is absolutely necessary to enforce many of the provisions of this proposed act. And two, a hard cap on rent increases. And in our current environment, an annual rental increase totally tied to the CPI, Consumer Price Index, is a disaster for tenants living on the edge of their finances, as many are. So that was a question I asked there, and they said, oh, we decided we were going to talk about that later, essentially. And the registry part, which was a terrible answer. And the hard cap thing, they talked around it. The government did. I'm sure both of those will come up tonight, because those are, particularly the registry is kind of one of the big things with opposition party members, not members of the legislature, but rank and file, and not necessarily members of the legislature, although I think many of them are in favor. But rank and file certainly has been screaming about a provincial rental registry, so you can find out who's renting apartments. If you're in an apartment and you're a new renter, you can find out what the old renter paid exactly. So, anyway, and it's in the act that you can't. it's still tied to the apartment rather than the renter. So you can't just bump the rent up above that. But there needs to be a mechanism to ensure that, is what our question was about. And it got answered absolutely almost zero. But made the point, might make, that point will come up tonight for sure. Not sure. So, Paul, you're going. I'm going. Anybody else? You got the invitation there. And I think I would be shocked if you had to pre-register, even though it says to pre-register. I've pre-registered. I assume you are, Paul. But I bet you can walk in at the time of the meeting, register at that point. I'd be surprised if you couldn't. It'll be interesting. That's tomorrow night. So that's that. Slowly. Okay. Other business for this meeting. We were going to have tons to talk about with short-term rentals. And now the snow bumped it for a day. I would like to talk about where we're going. What time is it, Craig?
A phone call coming in, so it just comes on my watch. But it's
I want to know what
12:30. It's 12:30.
12:30? Okay, we're doing good. Anyway, I couldn't resist. Sorry. Okay, where do we go? What do we focus on? Affordable housing. It's a wide mandate. STR has certainly been the major attention from this group. That may be put to bed for a while. Where do we go then? Who has ideas?
I remember. Oh, sorry. Did I cut you off?
That's okay. You go ahead.
Sure. I remember Philip bringing up public housing a while back. I wonder what we could do with that.
Well, obviously we need more public housing available. So my thought process is that it's not always a private market solution, but it could be obviously a non-profit solution like King Square or whatever. But we just need more of it, and to help facilitate that, I think Philip ran on his election campaign was to set up CADC as a functioning non-profit, so to speak, to try to get more public housing and more affordable housing in the city. I don't know if they see that as their role. However, that does mean though potentially that there's another non-profit that could be set up specifically for that, since maybe CADC doesn't really want to do it.
Can the city set up a nonprofit?
I don't know. I don't know if the city can actually do it, but a nonprofit can set up itself, right? It has to be a group of citizens that decide that they're going to devote themselves to doing something like this, and then a committee forms, and then it gets informally registered or formally registered, and away you go. Now, I think the city. Now, I don't know. I've never done this, obviously, but I'm assuming that the city could sponsor it somehow, but it wouldn't be owned by the city. Couldn't be owned by the city because I don't think the city can do that.
No, that'd be
I
our
could be wrong. Yeah.
Our committee's fairly non-profit, but that's not exactly the same thing. Okay.
No.
So
Can I mention something too?
please do.
I understand, like, there's a lack of units. That's certainly one thing. But I think there should be a sliding scale to qualify for any of the programs, like the rent supplement programs, even your low income housing programs. You're cut off at, let's say, $36,000 a year. But if you make $36,001, you just don't qualify. So what's that $1 doing for you? It's not helping you afford your rent. So if there was almost like a sliding scale type of of a program to help those individuals that are making more than 36,000, but they're still not able to afford their rent. I don't know where you go with it or how you implement it or what, but it certainly is something that stands in the way of all islanders of like having some assistance or some help to afford their housing options.
Okay, and those are provincial programs, right?
Yep.
So that's where you go. Okay, and the fact that
It's always
we
public
advise,
housing, right? Well,
Yeah,
social housing
yeah.
is provincial, right?
yeah, what I think, okay, the capital I, take it for what it's worth. So I think where we could go with any of this is to, and we're an advisory group, advise council, that's spelled PRESSURE, advise council to request or lobby or something to get some of these things done through the,
Right.
like we could certainly send something to council as something we'd like to see debated and moved ahead. And this is going to take forever through about 1 million hoops, right, Alex?
Well, it's the money flows from Ottawa, flows to the province, and then it stops flowing to us. And so, and again, there's a long established, programs through the federal government, and they, in fact, I think, fund most of the housing in PEI through a provincial agreement. So, but and then we seem to drop off the sort of the radar in regard to dealing with affordable housing, other than things like the official plan, zoning, whatever incentives we may have. But so you're likely correct that you can follow up with council, but council will be then going back to those funding source people in regard to what opportunities exist or how.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think the only way we can do it is, as our committee, is to make the recommendation to council that they request, encourage, whatever the verb would be, the province to do such and such, whether it's more flexibility on qualification for programs that are currently in place, which and a lot of that is tied up with federal too, the qualifications, I'm sure, or even encouraging the foundation, the establishment of nonprofit organizations that are nonprofit development corporations or organizations that can benefit from some of these programs in order to build affordable housing units or public housing units, what I'm trying to say. But the only thing we can do really is try to wield our immense influence, right?
The only thing that I'll look into this after this meeting. The council's got all of these competing interests coming at them from various committees and things like that, and it's just a matter of, in order to be impactful, it would likely be better if they had a presentation or something. But I don't know what the mechanism. I don't know whether they're the mechanism. They have an active transportation committee, and so I don't know how they all sort of elevate things through. Because again, if you just have a letter in front of council, things need to be explained. You need a champion, things like that. So I'm not really certain. You can always write the letter, but I don't know whether that's the most ideal process. But I will inquire on your behalf.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Ashley, with the so many hoops to go through, and the hoops I'm talking about are here with the city, just to use our influence to advise them to do something, and that's pretty long term, but long term's fine. But it's a case of planting a seed, and then trying to get the seeds to grow. And it's going to take a while. It's going to take a strategy. So I think both those issues, public housing and current programs, being able to qualify for current programs, are things that require a strategy, which we talked about strategy before. And I think that's a really legit area that we can meet on, which means we'll actually have to do some work, like drafting some key points, then working your way through. So, but we can do that. We're really smart. I know us. So that's certainly one thing. Anything else on those two before we move to another item we need to do? Okay, so it's strategy time.
There's the Affordable
Okay,
Housing Incentive Program.
Okay, talk to that.
Well, that's the city's own program, and I know they revised it 6-8 months ago. I can't remember, but there's not, it doesn't hurt for us to take a look at it and see if we think that there's any improvements, and then we can make recommendation to council or to the planning committee or whatever. Not that we can, I don't know, but I mean, it's something we can look at.
Right, and we can certainly be doing that while that's more short term, I think. We can actually, at least the looking at.
Yeah.
You know, and understanding it. This is what came at us very early in this committee's life, right? It all of a sudden it was dropped on our desk. We want some reaction to this when we didn't really know what we were doing. By we, I mean me again.
Yeah.
That's it, though, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. Alex, can we ask you to dig out the Affordable Housing Incentive Program and perhaps send it to us for a look?
Yeah, I think between Alan and I, we can get that out to you.
Okay, good. Someday when you're really, really bored. And that would be excellent. Okay. Greg, what are you thinking we should be looking at?
I agree with Paul and Ashley. Actually, it's kind of get some direction on where we're gonna go and what we're gonna tackle next and how to go about doing it. And you said short-term rentals are gonna come to not a conclusion, but our work is gonna be done on those shortly, and what to do next and where to focus our energy and where we're best going to be heard and maybe get some results.
Yeah, okay. Robin, what are you thinking?
Sorry, I'm chewing.
Chewing
yeah,
food,
I think we need a little bit of direction too, like, and maybe even if we come up with an idea, we could email it, because sometimes it's hard to come up with things like on the spot in a meeting.
Yeah, I apologize for putting people on the spot, but that's what it is. Okay, we have good ideas here for things to attack. We will get a copy of the Affordable Housing Incentive Programs, and if anybody finds anything about public housing that it would be good for all of us to take a look at, please send it along, okay? And we'll actually get, we need to educate ourselves as much as anything else. Okay.
Just when you're looking at the incentive program, in order to be, again, you know, to evaluate it, you have to have somewhat insight and knowledge of what the two programs are trying to achieve. So the programs are very different. One is the provincial program is targeted to much more people in need and you know, eminently either going to be homeless or they need some kind of public housing or something along the CMHC one is a much more, that's on average prices across the country, and the rents on those units are fairly high. So, you know, and they both have value. I'm not differentiating, but the two programs that are in play there are not the same. They're going after two different target audiences. So as long as you're aware of that, I think it would help inform you whatever decision you may have in regard to how you may want to respond to that particular incentive program.
But the city has a program too, right?
That's what we're talking about. I thought the incentive program is the city's program, but it's talking about how to tap into that, and it references the provincial program, a provincially supported program, or a federally supported program. But the two programs are going after two different, very diverse markets of affordable housing, and they both have a very valid role, but they're not the same target audiences that they're going after.
Yeah, and we have read chapter and verse about that, or heard chapter and verse through Mr. Banks's efforts over the last couple months, and also Bill Campbell of our committee has wrote a very interesting piece about those two programs. The upshot of all of it is that we need more units, generally, high, low, medium, anything. And those two programs, as you say, target different groups, but both of them are doing more, both of them are for developing more units, establishing more units. We have great hope that the STR regulations will establish more units whenever that happens. There will be places for people to live. Okay. Other business. Amen. Good. Our next meeting is March 16th. It is St. Patrick's Day Eve. So we will anticipate people wearing green of some sort, even if it's just in their facial coloring. Thank you very much. I appreciate your contribution. I think before we leave, I think we should be really proud of what we've done in a short time in terms of efforts with STRs. Like, we've worked hard on that, and as a group, and I think it has made a difference. I've had people tell me that they think it makes a difference to have a group like us stand up and say things. So, well done, people. Well done. Okay, hear a motion for adjournment?
Second.
I didn't hear it first, but okay. You're a first, and thank you, Craig. You're now in the minutes. You're a seconder. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good job, Bill. Good job.
Sorry about that. I tied up with one of my homeless clients.
Yep. Well, that's probably really good work, and maybe even a little better than ours. Anyway, we'll catch you up on what we did. We're just about to leave. And thank you all. Have a great afternoon and a really good rest of the week. We'll look forward to hearing from you about housing initiatives and things whenever you come across them on the email. And we'll look forward to seeing you on St. Patty's Day Eve. Thank you.
Hey, it must have been a good meeting. Alex looks really relaxed.
Well, I got lots to do. I shouldn't be looking relaxed, but I got lots to do.
we tried to give him 17 jobs, so it worked out well.
That was great news about Jamie, eh?
Yeah, we talked about that. Yep, for sure. We're very pleased, all of us. I can hear grandparent daycare in the other room. I think I'm needed. So
okay.
We'll check out. Bye bye.
See you later.
Take care. Bye bye.